Welcome, focused learners, to today's explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here. Today, we're opening up the architectural plans for, well, literally one of the most significant digital transformations a company can undertake. We're talking about the SAP S/4HANA Blueprint. Think of this explainer as your step-by-step master plan for navigating an SAP implementation journey, from the very first foundational dig all the way to the moment you open the doors for business. But first, we really have to ask ourselves, what does an SAP project actually look like in the real world? It's a massive undertaking, right? Well, imagine for a moment that your company's building a giant corporate headquarters. You wouldn't just start laying bricks at random. You'd need a master plan. And an SAP implementation is exactly like building or heavily renovating that massive corporate headquarters. It requires blueprints, specialized teams, structural testing, and a very precise sequence of events to ensure the roof doesn't just collapse once everyone moves in. Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our blueprint for today. 1. Understanding SAP project types. 2. Choosing your implementation path. 3. Customizing with RISE. 4. Navigating the SAP landscape. And 5. Putting it to the test. Section 1. Understanding SAP project types. All right, so let's take a look at this structural breakdown. There are basically 4 primary types of SAP projects. First up is the standard implementation. This is where you map and design client requirements into SAP for the very first time. And honestly, this heavy lifting usually takes anywhere from 6 to 24 months, depending on how big the company is. Second, we have support projects. Because, once the system is live, you're going to need day-to-day maintenance. This can be ticket-based, where issues are resolved as they pop up, or it can be full 24/7 production support. Third is the upgradation or migration project. This is exactly what happens when a company moves from an older system like SAP ECC over to the shiny new S/4HANA. And finally, there's the rollout. This is when a company already uses SAP, but they want to expand it to a new country or a new company code. It's essentially just copying their existing blueprint onto a new lot of land. Section 2. Choosing your implementation path. Now, what's really interesting about this is that when building in the newer S/4HANA system, we essentially have 2 main implementation paths. And let's really think about the difference here. We have the greenfield method and the brownfield method. The greenfield approach is literally like bulldozing an entire lot to build a brand new, modern house completely from scratch. You don't carry over any existing customizations or old data configurations. You are starting totally fresh. On the flip side, the brownfield method is a system conversion. This is much more like renovating a historic home while you are still living inside it. You transition to S/4HANA, sure, but you retain your current data, your existing processes, and your previous customizations. It preserves your existing investments without making you start all over again. And this perfectly illustrates the SAP Activate methodology we use to actually get there. It's a continuous, cyclical process broken down into 4 key phases: prepare, explore, realize, and deploy. This is the exact rhythm of the project, taking us all the way from the drawing board to a live, functioning business suite in the cloud or on-premise. Section 3. Customizing with WRICF. So the absolutely crucial point here is this. Before we can customize anything, we have to perform a gap analysis. Think of it kind of like walking through a newly built house and realizing, wait, we need a custom power outlet right here for our specific machinery. A gap analysis assesses the differences, or the gaps, between what your business currently does and the standard, out-of-the-box functionalities that SAP provides. Once we identify those missing pieces, we know exactly what custom work is required to bridge them. And how do we categorize all those custom fixes? Well, we use a framework called WRICEF. Let's break down this dense acronym step by step. W is for workflow. That means designing custom ways to streamline business processes. R is for reports, creating custom ways to extract and analyze your data. I is for interfaces. That's building the plumbing to connect SAP seamlessly with external applications. C is for conversions, migrating and translating data from legacy systems so it fits perfectly into the new SAP framework. E is for enhancements, modifying standard SAP functions to do exactly what you need. And finally, F is for forms, designing custom layouts for things like invoices or purchase orders. WRICEF systematically plans out every single custom nail and screw we need to add to the structure. Section 4. Navigating the SAP landscape. Let's move to and see how this builds. Notice the flow from left to right here. The SAP landscape is actually split into 3 distinct, isolated environments. First, you have the development client. This is where you build. It's the dusty construction zone. Once something is built, it moves to the quality assurance client. This is where you inspect. It's where the integration testing and key user training happen, completely safely away from the active business. Finally, it moves to the production system, and this is where the business actually lives. But how does our work physically move from that dusty development zone into quality assurance and then finally over to production? We do this through what we call transport requests. Think of transport requests like securely packing up completed furniture into moving boxes, and then transporting them from the staging area directly into the pristine final showroom. There are two main types of moving boxes here. Number one is the customizing request. This handles client-specific data and is typically used by functional consultants, the folks focusing on modules like finance or sales. Number two is the workbench request. This one is for cross-client data, and it's used to record changes to repository objects by the technical consultants, like the ABAP developers and basis administrators. Section 5. Putting it to the test. All right, we have a rapid-fire sequence of inspections to get through before go live. First up is development unit testing. This is done right in the development system by the builders themselves. They are checking isolated pieces of functionality, kind of like testing a single light switch to ensure it turns on the correct bulb. Next is security testing, which is absolutely vital. We create test IDs to confirm what a user can do and, just as importantly, what they cannot do. This involves both positive and negative testing of job roles. Then, we step back for integration testing. Because SAP is so heavily interconnected, we really must test how different modules talk to each other. If HR is integrated with sales and distribution or controlling, we have to verify that a transaction in one department perfectly ripples through to all the others. Finally, we reach the ultimate proving grounds. We have parallel testing, which is an incredibly safe way to verify our new system. We take the legacy system and the new SAP system, and we literally run them side by side with identical data. Think of it like running parallel payroll processes for 3 months. If the new system's results identically match the trusted old system, we pass. But the absolute climax of the entire project is UAT, or user acceptance testing. This is when the actual business end users step into the system, execute their daily test cases without the technical team holding their hands, and validate that the system actually works for them. Only when the users are completely satisfied do they provide that ultimate sign-off. And that, focused learners, brings us to the end of our architectural review. We've seen the scope, chosen our path, mapped out our custom WRICF features, traversed the physical landscape, and passed the rigorous testing phases. It is a massive, complex blueprint for sure. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this final thought. Looking at the sheer scale of the preparation, the deep gap analysis, and the intense testing required, is your business truly ready to break ground on the digital transformation of an SAP S/4HANA journey? Thank you so much for joining me today, and as always, keep learning.